Okay, so I am back at it again, and let me preface by saying again that all of this is a teaching moment. My intention is not to spread division or disrespect continental Africans. Like the Lagos cake picnic video, all of this is to shine light on the mindset and mentalities coming over from Africa to the United States and interacting with us FBA folks. We grew up under two different systems and our mentalities are totally different. We're diametrically opposed to one another. And I mean, if you want unity, you have to respect the native group on their homeland. You can't bring foolishness over here. So there's two videos by this content creator. Link will be in the description. But just some background info on this video. She's speaking on Ghana and why it's trapped in this third world status. So it's very informative to me, and this is no surprise if you're a Ghanaian immigrant or somebody of Ghanaian heritage, first, second, third generation Ghanaian born in the United States. So I'm gonna start the video here and just pick out the points that she makes, especially from my FBAs, because it'll all start to make sense right here.
So I decided to do a bit more research and dig a bit deeper into why people refer to, I'm going to talk about Ghana specifically, as a third world country. What does that term actually mean? I think that that's the best place to start, right? What does it mean to be a third world country? So now, sometimes to be able to define what it means by a third world country, we have to have a little bit more understanding, right? So third world country can be defined by poverty and infrastructure. I feel like a lot of people, when they think about third world, they think of poverty, right? You immediately think of, how we've been trained, right? The starving children with the big pot bellies, like nothing around them, out in the desert somewhere, everybody's just hungry. That's kind of like what you think of when you think of third world, right? And infrastructure problems, all of that stuff. A third world country can also be to do with mindset and the systems that the country has in place. And
Bingo. The mindset and systems in place. Now let me go ahead and skip over to okay.
or a third world country, which no, we don't want that. So I touched on it earlier where I was talking about what makes it third world, right? So I said the infrastructure and the systems that Ghana has currently. Okay, so let's just break that down a little bit more. So some of the things that goes against Ghana, as I said, the infrastructure, we have bad roads, drainage systems aren't great. I recently did a video on flooding. You can go and check that out if you haven't checked it out already. Things just are not running in the way that it should to benefit the people. Another thing that doesn't do well is because of the country's economic dependence, right? We rely so much on importation, countries coming to bail us out. Although every country has debt, Africa, Ghana, we rely heavily on what comes from outside in. And without that, the country's going to be a mess. And so things like that, again, push us down in the rankings. We have.
Yeah, notice she said Africa, Ghana. Like I say, throw all of West Africa in there. That's why I would, like in that Nigerian cake picnic video, I would say Nigeria, West Africa, Africa. Some people will look at that as me being disrespectful, but that's not the intention. That's the truth right there. And it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but it's much needed. It'll make you better. Okay, let me go ahead. All right, so let's go ahead and play this part.
Gives you that opportunity to. So I'm just going to start to wrap up this video, but what I really do want to say is when people see that Ghana is a third world or a developing country, right, it's often more so to do with mindset. It's about how people think, how the people of Ghana also think. We're held back on a lot of things. I've done it before, I've said it before, religion holds the country back because people have been indoctrinated into certain things. So they're unable to critically think about certain things. They just take what they're told without questioning. That whole aspect, it holds the country back. That's what I said when I did the video. Like, if people are unable to question and to challenge certain things, right, in the right ways, then what becomes of the country? We just accept it and we're just stuck We're just stuck in this time zone where nothing ever develops because, Ghanaians have been told that this is how it is and never question it. And so we all just go about our business and nothing is ever changing because this is how it is. That's how we're told that it's supposed to be. And so we never look at anything else, and therefore we never develop and we never get anywhere. We're just stuck. And that's pretty much what has happened to the country. We're just stuck in this place where nobody's thinking outside the box and thinking, hey, well, actually, if we did this, it'd be better. It's not happening, and it holds us back. A lot of the time, I think I can pretty much say a lot of us are guilty of it. We are guilty of, starting to accept inefficiency, starting to accept that, corruption does happen. It's annoying, yes. It does happen, and we, as I said before, you kind of get desensitized to these things. After a while, you're just like, welcome to Ghana. It's that kind of thing. Those are the things that hold us back. So until mindsets change, it's going to hold back the physical progress of the country, and that is as simple as it is. So in conclusion,
You know what? Props to her, man, for admitting it. But thing is, I don't know if she's first generation. I don't know if she was born in Ghana or of course she was raised in the United Kingdom, and she also lived in the United States also, but she's back in Ghana. So she has a well-rounded perspective, a full circle perspective. If you're from Ghana, even Nigeria, West Africa, Africa in general, hey, she said it. And this is something that us as FBA, we notice. Now, she mentioned mindset. This was basically a long-winded intro. So let's go ahead and go into the second video by this woman here, specifically talking about mindset and critical thinking and the lack thereof in Ghana, West Africa, and Africa in general. Let's go ahead and move forward. All right, so this is basically a continuation of the why is Ghana considered third world video. This is the same content creator, More to Della, and she's talking about no one wants to talk critical thinking in Ghana, and that was a major point that she had highlighted from the last video, but she goes more in depth on this video right here. I'm not going to do too much talking, but I'll pause and speak on some pertinent points that she brings out. So let's go ahead and enjoy this video here.
Hey guys, welcome back. Okay, today's video I want us to talk about something that is very, very touchy. Excuse me. But I feel like it's necessary that we bring it up and talk about it because it is a real thing. Okay, critical thinking. It is such a problem, and I know sometimes you hear about Ghanaians or sometimes Africans in general can lack critical thinking, but
Yeah, I agree with that. And hey, don't get mad at me. She said it. And that's something that's apparent when it comes to FBA interactions with continental Africans.
I don't think we realize how deep rooted it is and how much it affects the progress of Ghana and where we are going. I know this is a very touchy subject for people because people feel like, oh, you can't say that Ghanaians are, can't critical think and all of that. But let's really look at the facts about it, okay? Because...
All right, hey, let me chime in, man. Let's not get it twisted. Africans are very smart. They're book smart, but, just the different systems, man. They lack the understanding of the nuance that is definitely apparent in the West, and that's something that manifests itself quickly when we interact with Africans. Let me go back a little bit so we pick up her full thoughts.
Critical think and all of that, but let's really look at the facts about it, okay? Because it really does start from the education system. It really does, and because it's been left for so long, it goes all the way up to the top. Like, you'll be surprised the number of times that I have come across or found myself in situations where people haven't had the ability to think outside the box. It just amazes me. We take critical thinking for such granted. We don't realize that in the West, the way that we are raised to see and question things. The other day I was watching this program on TV, and it had this mother and daughter scene in it, and the daughter was like, yeah, but why is it like this, and da, 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 da. And I was like, ooh, who are you talking to like that? Like, it kind of got me. So this, like, there's also a balance to it, right? So like the girl was like questioning certain things, like, why does it have to be like that? Why did it? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this is grown people's business. But at the same time, there is a balance that needs to be struck that everyone can feel comfortable with. So while I personally am not comfortable with why are you asking like all these questions, I've told you what it is, right? To an extent. Or why, like, even after you've asked me the question and I give you an answer, you're still poking why. I'm like, listen, you need to stop now, right? Now we have the other side where they're told something and that's it. They just take it for what it is. They'll ask no questions. And you know, the thing about Ghana is that we see that as a sign of respect. It's like if you tell someone younger than you something and they just believe it and they just go with it, it's like, that's you're being respectful because me, I'm older than you, and so therefore what I've said is wisdom that you don't have yet, and so therefore you should believe what I'm saying. And that's a really bad, dangerous thing. Like I said, let's take it back to schools, right? A lot of the schools, I think school system is changing a bit now, if I just touch on that. The school system is changing now where you'll find that students are encouraged to question things that they don't understand. They're encouraged to think about why things work the way, you know, that whole critical thinking that we really need as human beings.
All right, let me chime in. When it comes to this FBA continental African discourse, and you know, there was a time where continental Africans, they didn't even know about the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. And that was in the 90s. I remember that too. You know, they would admit that, hey, they had no records. Nobody taught them about anything having to do with anything about a slave trade happening. And now all of a sudden a decade has passed and now they're quote unquote experts and they're trying to tell us about it. But then again, we moved on. We found a lot of information that has been purposely forgotten about when it comes to melanated people being already in the Americas. And now, to her point, when she was saying you just roll with what you're being told without questioning it, that's something that we see from continental Africans, and that's a cause of friction there. So from an FBA perspective, that's something that we have to be mindful of when we interact with these folks. We can either have more patience or we got to know not to engage. But let me rewind it back so she can get the full point. Okay, there we go.
Whole critical thinking that we really need as human beings, it's being taught in some schools, not all schools, but some schools. But other schools are still very much in the era of, well, you know, this is what it is. I've told you what it is. Don't question me. I'm the teacher. I know more than you, and that is it. And so the children are raised in school to memorize things rather than understand things. So it's like, if I tell you 1 + 1 is 2, it's 2. Don't question how 1 + 1 makes 2. Just know that it's 2, and that's all you need to know. And that's kind of how people are taught in that sense. I would say that there are some people that can come out of a system like that and still thrive, right? Because even though they are being respectful of the culture and won't pick at things, in their minds and outside of that system, they question and they want to know more. They crave the knowledge. Like, okay, teacher told me 1 + 1 equals 2. Okay, but how is it? And then they'll go and think about how, okay, if I have this one item and this one item, oh, that's how it makes it. And they connect the dots for themselves. They have that ability. But let's not fool ourselves and think that all children have that ability to do that. Some children don't. Let me just hit this while I'm here, right?
Now, she broke down a lot. Continental Africans, I know she's talking about Ghana, but Nigeria and all of West Africa, they suffer through this type of thought process or lack thereof. Like I say, they're book smart, but they have a system where they're being told, okay, this is this, but not how it is. Whereas with us, you know, it's kind of both. But we are, as FBAs, we're encouraged to break it down, go over the nuance, the variation, the facts, or whatever concept we're trying to tackle. Now, when it comes to like our lineage, we can break this thing down because, you know, it's not so simple as, hey, take a DNA test. And, you know, we have to really know what DNA, you know, I don't want to get too deep into that part yet, but just look at what she said. they don't really go over how things come to be. They just know that, hey, it's here in front of us, if that make any sense. She's going to expound on it way better as the video goes on. But let me rewind it a little bit. And
so let me just hit this while I'm here, right? When it comes to education, education is one of those funny things that some people will thrive in an education in that classroom setting and other children will not. Ghana hasn't really adopted a culture where it's accepted that you can learn outside of the educational system. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, that some people are just natural creatives and that's how you should teach them, through creativity, right? It's still very much teacher, student, board, chalk type thing. And that, I feel like that's a huge missed opportunity for a lot of Ghanaians, because they're not nurturing their natural talents until much later on, where they, that's not the right word to use, Della. I was gonna say where they have a backbone, that's not the right word to use. But where they have the confidence to be like, okay, well, this is what I've been taught in school. Now I wanna put my own spin on things. I wanna do things my way. It's very, very hard as a Ghanaian to break certain molds that have been put there, because we fear the whole thing of the judgment. Now you're seen as a rude child. Once you get, let me just say this. Once you get a reputation, right, for being rude, you can't wipe it. You can't wipe it. No matter how many good deeds you do, you will always be known for being this bad, rebellious child until perhaps maybe you're adult, and then the now the older people are like, okay. Then they kind of ease up with you because they kind of give you some status as an adult. But other than that, once you're someone who questions things and all of that stuff, it's with you forever. It really is. So
on the flip side, the system, the educational system, the intellectual system, for the status quo, the majority when it comes to Africa is, okay, we're going to tell you, just roll with it, don't question it. Whereas in the United States, we operate with liberties. We want people to think outside of the box and just come to the truthful conclusion. Let's look at all pieces of information and the facts and evidence, and let's go from there. That's what we're encouraged to do. Now, it's kind of funny because I'm thinking about, I had a video where it was a chick in the gray hoodie or jumper or whatever, sweater, and she was talking about when immigrants come over, they tend to side with the group that will bring them the most success. And with that bleeds over into the intellectual or scholastic realm too. And you can kind of see that with that young kid from, I don't know if he's Kenyan, but that Matt Nuclear cat. Okay, so he just goes with the basic force-fed compulsory school education narrative when it comes to FBA and our background. He doesn't deviate from that, and he's well versed in the narrative, but he doesn't know about the extra information that explains a lot of what the narrative fails to explain. And I don't want to get too deep into that guy, but let me rewind it back and then you guys can get the point. She brings it out and explains everything perfectly. So let's move forward.
Once you're someone who questions things and all of that stuff, it's with you forever. It really is. So it's almost like if you come from a household where your parents allow you to have some level of being able to speak up about certain things that you don't understand, or to question why, without them taking it as you're being rude, then you'll thrive. Like, Ghana's great for that. Like, you will completely thrive because you're going to be so far ahead of so many other people that don't have the ability to critical think. I gave you the example the other day, right, when I said, you order a burger and you say, I don't want the onions, and then they're like, but that's how it comes. They don't know how to take the onions out. So you're just like, bring the burger to me, I'll take the onions out myself type thing. That is like, that sounds funny, but it's the actual truth. It happens time and time again with things like that, where people just lack the ability to think outside of what they've been told. But if you can raise children where They have the social awareness to know when to question things and when not to, because even you who is the parent, right? When you have children who are naturally curious and you go to certain settings, say like family event or whatever, and then something happens, the child is asking, but why? Now the adult's eyes is on you as a parent, like, you're going to allow your child to be going back and forth with you, back and forth. Like, do they not have home training? You know, and so if you have a child who can be aware of situations like that, where they know that, okay, you know what, this one I don't understand, but let me ask later, and then you give the space to the parent to be able to address the questions that the child has. That's wonderful, but I'm telling you, like, I don't know how to really put across to you what it's like growing up in a Ghanaian household where there are certain rules that are just unwritten that you just live by, and sometimes you don't even realize that those are the rules until you become an adult and you're like, hey, it's like that. And then even as you grow, and I'm going right, like, even as you grow, you find it hard to even break out of those things because they've been so instilled in you that it's like, it's very, very difficult. You know, one of the things my dad used to say about me is that, this girl is always asking why. I tell her stuff and she's asking why. But I was fortunate that my dad was liberal enough to be able to allow me to have the space to ask why and be, you know, have that thought process of trying to understand certain things. Like, he had the patience to do it. But can you imagine being a child who asks his why and being, having parents that you're not allowed to ask why? That is going to be so stifling, and that just puts you so much further back. As you start to grow, and you want to follow some type of a career, you want to advance your career, you want to advance yourself. Now you're stuck with this thing on your back almost, where you're scared to like ask questions and say anything that goes against, challenge the teacher when you're learning things, right? That's part of the learning process, right? To be able to, like, the teacher says something, you're like, oh, but what about this? And have that whole debate system, right? In the West, we are allowed to debate. Teacher says something you don't understand. Okay, what don't you understand? Like, we break it down until you understand it. And if you don't, okay, after class, come see me. We'll talk it through. And, until you understand it, we keep going until you get understanding. My friend, come and try that in Ghana. It's not going to happen for you. It is really not. And so what we're seeing children who are grown, who are raised with this lack of critical thinking, grow into adults who also still have lack of critical thinking. So even when they want to question certain things, they don't have the confidence to be able to do it. And so it just grows with adulthood. And it comes across to those of us that are coming from the West that have been, we're not even told that we are learning critical thinking, because, I mean, as far as I'm aware, I've never heard of critical thinking classes. I don't know how you would even start to teach critical thinking. It's just something that happens as you grow. But, those of us coming from the West and we're coming into Ghana, we're trying to work with people who have lack of critical thinking. It's like, how do you...
I'm going to say it for her, man. Yo, they come across as being slow, man. That's the elephant in the room. I know Africans, Ghanaians, Nigerians, they're not really slow. It's just there's a disconnect. It's cultural differences, and I think with FBA we get frustrated because, I mean, this stuff, I don't know, man, but it's like, yo, it's really not that hard. You're struggling. What you're struggling for? But then again, while she was speaking about something, that kind of made me think about immigration. And okay, they screen for immigration, and they're screen. All right, what type of person are you? And this is like the perfect type of Sambo to come over here and undermine. The ones who lack critical thought or thinking, and that's a recipe for someone to be a master underminer. But let me go ahead and rewind it back a little bit. Okay.
How do you then start to teach these people critical thinking? Because every time they are scared to question anything that you've said, even though you maybe that person may be helping you out because they feel like it's rude, it's not their place to say it, so they allow things to sometimes go wrong. And it's like, but why didn't you, if you saw that, why didn't you say something? That's how we see it. Like, if you see something that, like, it's all about to hit the fan, right? And you, as a Ghanaian person, can see that this person's going to scam you, or this, like, we would expect the person to speak up and say, madam, like, I don't think you should do this, or, like, they won't say it. They'll let it all hit the fan first. And then when you're sitting down there, you're scratching your head, like, how did this happen? Then they'll be like, and then if they are given a forum to say what they think, or how did we get here, then they'll say, yeah, I thought about it, at the time, but, I didn't want to say. And you're like, what the hell? You mean you could have saved me from this torture right now?
Here's where the conflict resolution comes to play, and a teaching moment. And speaking to the Africans here, okay, from an FBA perspective, that's a display of bad character traits and character flaws, and it just seemed like you're doing things with no remorse, and it just seems snakish. That's a Judas mentality to have. If you know something can go wrong and you just let the person experience that, and you could have gave them game, or said some words to help them avoid that if they're unknowing, then the upright thing to do is to help somebody to avoid that. That shows good character right there. You're a stand-up person, you're a stand-up man or a stand-up woman, to just give them the game. Don't let these people just implode. And us as FBA, when we see that y'all don't take regard for the fellow man, and then y'all start bragging and wanting to lecture us about how upright Africans are, but y'all come over here and do this, hey, there's friction right there. Y'all gotta understand that too. So let me go ahead and rewind it back a little bit.
Save me from this torture right now. And so it's like, how do you begin to work with people who have been raised in a society where critical thinking is seen as being rude? We from the West are coming in and we're like, okay, how can we make this better? When you go to work for someone and you're like, okay, I've seen this, I have this idea, how we can make business better, how we can stop losing money, how we can make the process smoother. Like, that's what we are used to, right? When you hire someone, you're expecting those as part of their skills. You're not expecting someone to come and be a robot and just be like, okay, this is it, put a burger in the bread, squeeze the ketchup, put the bread on top, and that's it, give it to the customer. Like, we're not expecting those kind of workers. And so it's so difficult. It really is so difficult, because it's almost like sometimes people from the diaspora think that, well, if you pay more, you'll get a better quality of staff. Not necessarily. That it doesn't work like that. And I think one thing I really want the diaspora to understand is that just because you throw some extra money at something doesn't mean you get a better quality. That's not how it works. And I have tried to tell people this in the past, right? I'm going to go back to like house help, right? I've tried to tell people in the past when they say, oh, but it's because you don't pay your house help enough, that's why they don't do.
Hey, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit right here.
Steal, and that's why they do that. No.
So I don't want to go too long.
Stuff, right? It's because that's where they are. That's their character. That's how they think that.
Let me rewind it back a little bit.
I've tried to tell people in the past when they say, oh, but it's because you don't pay your house help enough, that's why they don't do things in the way that you want, that's why they will steal, and that's why they'll do that. No. If someone comes to your house and steals, or if someone comes and just doesn't do a good job or does some backward stuff, right, it's because that's where they are. That's their character. That's how they think that what should be done.
Ooh, man, that stung, man. And I'm not even African. I'm not a continental African. FBA over here, but that's what I was trying to get at to us. A lot of these Africans, when they be doing some stuff like that, they know. I mean, you would think they know better, but they just have terrible character, man. And that's not a diss to them. It's just that system that y'all have fostered that within y'all.
That what should be done. That's how they see it. a lot of them are in survival mode, so they're going to steal. Even if you pay them a really great salary, they're like, I don't know if tomorrow if I'm going to be sacked or what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if you people are going to get up and then go back to the West. So I'm going to take what I can for now, and they squirrel away certain things, and certain things happen. They don't necessarily think of the bigger picture, and that's the same when it comes to the workplace. They don't think of the bigger picture. They just think about the here and the now and what they can get for now and all of that, and it causes huge problems. And
Yo, she hitting the nail on the head. Now, this goes back to that Lagos, Nigeria cake picnic. Some of them people, they have that scarcity mentality. And that goes back to that third world mentality where the leaders are trash and, everybody's out for themselves. And then they bring that over when it comes here. And let me rewind it back. What did she say again?
Certain things happen that they don't necessarily think of the bigger picture, and that's the same when it comes to the workplace. They don't think of the bigger picture. They just think about the here and the now and what they can get for now and all of that, and it causes huge problems. And so sometimes
all right, and that carries over into, I guess, the scholastic world, the academic world, and all these online discourses between continental Africans and FBA over here. Those continental Africans, we're going to lump those Nigerians, those African Brits too. Not all of them, because King's Monologue, that's a true scholar right there. That's a stand-up guy. I give nothing but respect to him. But the majority of those that you see, they're problematic, man. And all these different mindsets and mentalities that are basically foreign to us over here in the United States, they bring that to us. It's like, hey, man, you's a snake, man. I don't want anything to do with you.
bigger picture, and that's the same when it comes to the workplace. They don't think of the bigger picture. They just think about the here and the now and what they can get for now and all of that, and it causes huge problems. And so sometimes I laugh to myself when I see fresh diaspora meat, coming to Ghana, and they're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to save Ghana. I'm going to come. I'm going to pay fair wages. I'm going to pay exactly what they would pay in the West. I'm going to pay it to my fellow Ghanaian people. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Me, I just sit down. I've even got to the point where I actually stopped talking. I'm just like, there's some things where you have to let people experience it for themselves so that they can.
Let me skip this part here, because none of us are trying to go to Ghana like that. So, the link to this video will be in the description. You can watch the entire thing if you want to hear that part. But let me see what's going on. Oh, she's still talking about people going over to Ghana. All right, let's play it.
We're not going to let people continue to take advantage. We're not going to let the Chinese come in and be.
Nah, that's too late.
Ghanaians are treated badly. It's because they deserve it, or I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that sometimes it is difficult to work with people that lack such understanding and try to grow a business with them. So it's like literally all you can do for them is double check the order that the customer has placed in the restaurant, why you have to read the order back. Like, unless I'm going to dedicate my time to things like that, which most serious business owners told to our children, is one where they have the ability to question things, ask questions. It's not being rude. Yes, we all want to save Ghana, we all want good things to happen to Ghana, but we can't do it at the detriment of our businesses, at the detriment of other things. It's very, very difficult. So really, it's like, we have to look at the whole system. The whole system. We have to change so many things about Ghana. So, like I said, from school, we start from there. We make sure that the curriculum that's being told to our children is one where they have the ability to question things, ask questions. It's not being rude. We can teach them about the borderline so they don't become like children of the West, because some of these children in the West, they're damn rude. And then, they're just rude. And we don't want our children to become like that. We still want our children to be raised with certain moral standards, certain times where they know their place. We want that. We want to keep that. But we also want them to be able to think outside the box and critically think and ask questions in the right way, in the respectful way. We want to bring all that in. But when you have people like that and they're raised, now you're talking about using these same people, right? And you're asking them to vote. What do you think is happening when it comes to voting? Do you think these people are thinking critically about who they're going to vote into power? No, they're not. They're voting for people who said, I'm going to give you 20 cedis if you vote for me. And I'm not saying that that's what happens in Ghana with me. I don't know. I'm just using that as a throwaway example. You know, people.
Sure.
I'd be like, I'll give you 20 cedis if you vote for this party. We will make, I don't know, something free for you people in this village. We'll give everybody chocolates. Everybody will get one Coke. You know, we'll throw a party for you people if you will vote for us. We'll do this. And that's how people are going into power in some places. I don't know about Ghana, but in some places, that's what.
Yeah, I really hope she's joking about that. You know, I'm not an expert on Ghana or Africa like that. And all the Africans are like, we know, nigga.
It's happening. So these people are not thinking about, okay, well, let me vote for this person. Let me see what this person's offering. And even if this person has been in power, this party has been in power before, did they do what they said they were going to do in the past? Like, did they live up to their promises? You know, were certain things established that they said they were going to do it? They won't think about that. They'll just think about what is in front of them at that precise time, and that's who they're going to vote for. Or they have this whole thing where I always vote MPP. So then my whole lineage is going to vote MPP, and they won't ever break that mold because they can't think. They can't think. They lack the ability to think that, hold on, MPP is not even what it used to stand for back in the days, because we've had such a turnover of people that the core of what NPP stand for, or NDC, or whoever it is stood for is no longer there. It's a different party. But because of you have opened your mouth and said MPP. Now for the rest of your life, you don't care if they take you to the shits. You're going with them to the shits because it's MPP, and you said you will support MPP for life. You will never change it. And that's how you now raise your children to be in the same way. Now these are people that we're growing up with. These are now people who are becoming in positions of power because we are dealing with things like nepotism, where people are given positions that they don't even know what they're doing. You sit in an office, you don't even know what you're even doing in your office. You sit down, you open your laptop, and you just look at the screen. You're looking at porno, or you're looking at what.
Hey, yo, hey, man. Hey, to any of these Africans online, these TikTok snakish Africans that be like, yo, FBA hate us. Nah, we don't hate y'all, man. It's just we're kind of exasperated and frustrated with y'all due to that mindset, the screwed up mindset and mentalities that you guys bring to us in our homeland with no regard for us, man. We the experts on us. Y'all don't. Hey, man, but I say that to say this, man. We rock with the right-hearted first, second, and third generation Africans because there's multiple vantage points that these guys have. You know, they understand how things are on the continent of Africa, and they know how things are in the West, and they can find that happy medium and judge appropriately and accordingly, and basically objectively, more importantly, you know. So she funny too, you know. Let me rewind it back a little bit.
With things like nepotism, where people are given positions that they don't even know what they're doing. You sit in an office, you don't even know what you're even doing in your office. You sit down, you open your laptop, and you just look at the screen. You're looking at porno, or you're looking at what. Oh my gosh, I woke up on the right side of the bed this morning. Lord have mercy. Okay, so let me just go back a bit. But I think you can understand the essence of what I'm saying, right? When it comes to schools, children are rewarded for being able to memorize. Memorize.
That prick Matt Nuclear, that's all he does. He doesn't know how things come to be. He just knows what he's fed. He's a Charlie Kirk supporter or adherent or disciple.
Other than understanding what it is that they're being taught. And that is such a shame. Like, we have so much work to do in Ghana. I don't know if we really realize how much work we have to do. And my fear really for Ghana is that the more people that come back, the more we're able to be tricked all over again. If we take it back to where we were colonized, some Ghanaians are still in that colonized state where they can't think past it. They still believe that colonization was good for Ghana.
Yeah, and a lot of these Africans that come over here to the United States, they still have that mentality too, and they try to put this tribalism on us or involve us into that because they see us as just another tribe when they could be further from the truth. We're different mindset wise.
The white people came and gave us great things. The white people came and showed us how to bath.
Yeah, I understand that look right there because we do the same thing when these continentals, the colonized minded, speak to us or try to lecture us.
Because we were dirty. Anyway, I don't want to go off topic. But you see what I'm saying? Like, a lot of problems that we have in Ghana would be solved if people were able to think properly and do things with understanding rather than just because of what they've been told. We have a long way to go. You know, in a previous video, you know, I spoke about the whole religion thing, and it aligns with that so well. The whole thing of where this is what you are told, this is what you do. Don't question it, because if you question it, you're rebellious, you're being disrespectful. This is the word of God. It's written here in the Bible, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say it one more time for you. I am not against religion. I am not against Christianity. I'm not against the Bible. I promise you, I am not. What I am against is people not being able to think for themselves and just being fed stuff that actually doesn't even make sense. The Bible that they even teach you is not even the Bible that is even the Bible that they're holding in their hand. They're just teaching you from their own traumas or from what they want, however they want to use it to manipulate and control you. But anyway, if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. I laid it all out there for you. So what are some of the consequences of a lack of critical thinking? One of the consequences is that we can have weak leadership because we have people appointed into positions that don't need to be there because they actually don't have the mindset or the forward thinking enough to actually carry the country. They're just in a position, and that is it. Innovate.
Now, to the Pan Africans, why would we want to go over there? You guys say that we hate Africans or we fear being African, but why would we want to go to a place that's under weak leadership where the people don't even know how to think critically? I mean, the United States, we understand that puppet governments are set up and there's a lot of massacres going around, religious wars, and just a lot of foolishness going over there. Why would we want to go over there and potentially be a victim of that? No, sir. Let me rewind it a little bit.
And that is it. Innovation just doesn't really, is almost non-existent because we're not raising people to be able to critically think and think about how we can put certain things into place. Just look at the infrastructure of Ghana that we have. If we allow people to be able to use their brains to think and question why certain things and put things into place, give them the space to put things into place, we'll be so far ahead, so much further ahead than where we are. But we're not allowed to critical think. We just don't have the ability to do it. You know, when we don't think critically, another thing that happens is that the systems that we have remain. Nothing ever changes. It's just stuck and everybody just accepts it. Well, that's how it is. That's how it is. That's how it is. You know, I remember some time ago someone said to me that, you know, in Ghana they don't put anything on computer. It's all on paper. So every 10 years somewhere burns down and all the records are wiped so that we can start afresh when we need to start afresh. I don't know how true that is, but you know.
All right, so with that, that was ridiculous right there, by the way. I'm going to shut this whole thing down, and I'm already at 42 minutes on this portion alone. So let me go ahead and shut it down, and I'll see you guys later. Actually, I'm scrub that. What I want to do is highlight the important points that she mentioned, and let's go ahead and think to ourselves. Let's think critically as we know how to do as FBAs. We were brought up on this, so this is a walk in the park to us, man. But let's go ahead and highlight some important points, and this is some things that we need to consider, and just some for the sake of conflict resolution to the Africans who may be listening. Know that we're not dissing you, but this is just a difference in opinion, basically a difference in how we were brought up, a culture clash right there. So like I say, we don't hate Africans like that, but we don't understand you guys, and you for sure don't understand us. So You guys think you do. I know, like, you guys want to hold form or whatever the Brits taught you guys, but we all need to humble ourselves and learn and just see each other's perspective and, be respectable first and foremost. But let me end this part right here and then I'll put the list up a little later. Okay.